So I didn't think I would ever film this video, but people asked for it on Instagram. So I have a drink, and in case you're wondering, it's non-alcoholic. It is sugar plum sparkling beverage, and I figured why not enjoy myself if I'm gonna become the L word on YouTube today. Let's see if I can open this. Like, what's the best way to open this? Oh, there's actually a trick, I think. There's a little thing that you can pull so it's not so hard to open. Maybe I can make it easier on myself. There it goes. Ta-da! Oh, do I not need the bottle opener? Do I need the bottle opener? I don't. Oh my gosh. Okay, by popular demand, I'm doing a story time on my lesbian breakup. So I have my beverage that is cleaned up off the floor now. I'm pouring it into a glass. We'll see how this tastes. It's supposed to be sugar plum and grape, so this might be more entertaining if it was a drunk history, but I like to accomplish things with my life, and once I've had alcohol, it's hard for me to do anything. So I'd like to do something else with my day rather than just be dramatic on YouTube. Okay, let's get started. I've tried to get started several times, and I'm figuring out what's the best way to get started. Take a sip. Okay, the story starts the summer of 2020 when I started dating this girl, and for the purposes of the story, we're going to call her Vicky. Vicky and I started dating in Pride Month. It felt like it was meant to be because it was Pride Month, and anything that happens in Pride is, you know, a gay blessing on your life, so you're excited for it. But Vicky and I, even though we started dating during Pride, we're not compatible. This was my first serious girlfriend. It was also her first serious relationship, and to say it was kind of toxic is to underestimate how toxic it became. First off, Vicky was not emotionally ready to be in a relationship, so we would be dating and we would go sometimes 3 days without her replying to my text. We would do stuff together. She would leave my apartment and I wouldn't hear from her for like 24 hours. And she told me it was because she was depressed, and because I have anxiety and ADHD and I have a lot of empathy, I didn't want to be like, well, get over your depression, text me. So I was like, oh, she's depressed. Like, I'm not going to like be like, you have to text me back. But also, I was anxious. Like, it just made me anxious. I had a panic attack one time and had to call my best friend being like, I think Vicky hates me. And my best friend was like, no, they don't. Like, nobody can hate you. Which, thanks, Shay. But don't date someone if dating them is giving you panic attacks. Like, that's the moral of the story. 3 months into our dating relationship, Vicky was not out to her parents. I was in the process of coming out to my parents. So, of course, I had a lot of empathy. I wasn't going to be like, you have to be out, because I'm barely out at that point. I came out on social media 2 months into our relationship, and I told Vicky, I want to come out to my parents. I want to be public about my relationship. And Vicky said, sure, but like it didn't really impact them. I was like, cool beans. So on our 3-month anniversary, I sent Vicky a picture that I had taken of her, and I said, is it okay if I post this on my Instagram? And I said, here's the caption. Here's what I'm going to caption it. Our 3-month anniversary is on a Wednesday. I don't even get to see you on our anniversary. Like, I've not seen you all week on our anniversary week, so I'm just putting that out there, that I wasn't even with her on our anniversary date, and we weren't like talking on the phone. There was like barely texting going on. I was like, can I post like Woman Crush Wednesday on my Instagram? And 3 months of loving you, or some statement like that. And Vicky said, yeah, that's fine. So I posted that, and then Vicky calls me that night and lets me know that her mom has seen the Instagram post, because I had a public page, and her mom found it in her Explore page, and so therefore her mom was like, are you gay? And Vicky was like, yeah. So her parents were not like upset that she was gay, but that's between her and her parents. But of course, it's very hard to come out when you're not ready to come out. So that was really hard on Vicky, and of course, we're not very compatible, so talking to me about it is not going well. I'm trying to be understanding, but also I'm like, you know, do you need anything? And they're not telling me what they need. She's just not communicating with me. So it's really hard for me to be there for her because she's not telling me what she needs. I was like, do you want me to take the post down? No, like, it's not your fault. Like, you told me I told you you could post it, like comments like that. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? And I talked to my therapist, and my therapist was like, you know, give her space. give yourself grace. Like, don't blame yourself. Like this is between her and her parents, and like, yes, they found out she was gay from your Instagram, but like, she didn't tell you to block them. Like, you did what you knew to do, and you had permission to post the post. So like, don't feel too guilty over it. Of course, I felt absolutely terrible. And there was a lot of relationship issues between her and her parents that was not related to me being gay or her being gay. It was actually other things. And she was just in an unhappy family dynamic, but that was like besides the point. Anyway, so about 2 weeks after she is outed to her parents, I had planned a trip to Texas. And she comes over the night before, then she goes to Texas. And if I recall correctly, I had not seen her in person the entire 2 weeks between when she's outed and the night before I'm going to Texas. And she's coming over for like a date night, but like not really, because she was like, I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like having fun. Like, I just am coming over to like get instructions how to take care of your dog and water your plants while you're gone, which is really nice that she's gonna do that. I would have like paid for my dog Sandy to go to PetSmart or whatever, but she like said that she could watch her. I was like, cool beans, this is perfect. And so she comes over, and all you have to do, my dog Sandy was like the lowest maintenance dog ever. So the entire week I'm gone, all Vicky needs to do is walk her twice a day and give her food. And then I fly off to Texas with my two best friends, and we've been looking forward to this trip since March of 2020. Like, we'd planned it for April, but because of the pandemic, we had postponed it, and we were going at a time when cases were low. And also, I really needed to come out to my parents. Like, I wanted to come out to them so I could stop like pretending to be straight around them, like on the phone calls with them. And I just felt like it was a burden on me to not be out to them, so I wanted to come out to my parents. So I get to Texas, I come out to my parents, and I text Vicky. I get like, oh, I hope you're okay response, but like barely a reply. And then she's barely texting me, and I'm like, well, maybe she's busy, like I don't know what's going on. And then 3 days into the trip, her cat dies. And her cat had been on hospice for like 4 months, and like a month before like her cat died, she had told me her cat was on hospice, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And she said, oh, it's no big deal, like he's like 15 and like we've known he's gonna die for a while. So when her cat dies, I was like, do you want me to call you? And she's like, no, it's fine. I was like, do you need anything? And she's like, no, it's fine. And then doesn't like text me the rest of the week. Like, I maybe get like 1-word answers from her. Does not answer her phone at all. Like, if I call her, no answer. If I text her like maybe hours later, like a KK reply, like okay, but like nothing. And I was like, I felt really bad. I'm like telling my friends, like, I'm so sorry for her, like her cat died and she's not happy, and like she's having issues with her parents and their relationship is not going well, and like I don't know what to do. And my friends are like, Elizabeth, like this girl is not good for you, but like I'm like not listening to it. So I fly back to South Carolina, and she's like, I can't see you for a week. I need you to be in quarantine, which is fine. Like, I understand. So we like don't talk for that week because I'm in quarantine, and I don't know why we couldn't talk when I'm in quarantine, but that's what she wanted. And at the end of that week, we were like, let's go on a date. So we go to this punk fair, which I was super excited for. She was super excited for. And I bought her these $30 earrings, and she was like, I'll buy you whatever I want. But there was like nothing at the fair that I wanted. So I just like bought her the earrings. I bought myself some earrings, and she was like, oh, I'll buy you something later. I was like, cool, like that's nice. Like I got you something, like I guess you can get me something. Like they were pretty expensive. Oh, and I paid for her to pet a snake, which was super cute. The snake was adorable. Well, it's a snake, but like she was adorable with the snake. If I could say, like she loved snakes. So I like paid for her to play with a snake, and it was a nice time. And then we went out to dinner, and we each bought our own meals. I'm like describing this date to you. But the point of it is I took some really nice pictures of her, like some really great pictures, because I like taking pictures. I also like use Lightroom, and I know how to edit. So she like looks over at my phone, and she's like, can you send me those after you've edited them? And I was like, yeah. So I edit the pictures and I send them to her. And she was like, thank you. And as we're like driving home, I was like, so Vicky, it's really, really hard for me when I don't know when I'm going to see you next. Like, we live in the same town, but like I barely know what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And like, if I don't know when I'm gonna see you, I just get like anxious that you don't want to see me. So can you like tell me when I can see you next? Like, let's say, let's have a date on Tuesday, or let's have a date on Saturday. Like this open air thing. Like sometimes like I'm like, are we gonna see each other on Friday? And I like tell my friends that I can't hang out because I think we might hang out. But then you're like, oh no, at the last minute. So like knowing some idea of when I can see you next is gonna help me so much in my life. And Vicky's like thoughtful, and she goes, yeah, I can try to do that. And I was like, oh, okay, I appreciate it. And I'm like, does Tuesday work? Like, I go back to work in my office on Monday, and I would love to like make dinner for you on Tuesday. You can come over to my apartment, we can have a nice dinner. You're not working on Tuesday, so that'd be really nice for us both. And she was like, yeah, I could do that. And I was like, yes, I scored. So go to work on Monday, and on Monday there was a horrible thing at work where a police officer died on the interstate. It was like absolutely horrible. It was like breaking news. It was a mess to cover. And since I work in news, I often like tell my friends or whoever I'm dating like what's going on while I'm at work. So I like text a Snapchat to Vicky being like, oh my gosh, look at this breaking news. And Vicky replies, LOL. And I was like, a man just died. Like, are you not reading my text? Like, what is going on? And she was like, oh, I didn't see it. And I was like, I just sent you a picture, and then you replied LOL, or whatever. So then Tuesday comes around, I like have some idea of what I'm gonna make for dinner, and she comes over, and she's acting super weird. I was like, is something bothering you? And she's like, yes. I was like, what is it? She's like, we need to break up. And I was like, oh, okay, why? And she's like, well, I just don't think we're doing well. Like, I'm not happy, you're not happy. I was like, I'm not happy? Like, I didn't realize I wasn't happy. And she's like, and you told me that you, like, the rule, like, your boundary that you need to know when we're going to date next is, like, too much. I can't do that. Like, you're asking too much for me. I don't have time to date you. I really am not in an emotional place to date anyone. And, like, I was understanding. Like, she's going through a really hard time. Like, she's just come out to her parents, and her cat died, and, like, life is hard. So I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I do not want to be a bother to you. Like, I just want you to be happy. So I was like, okay. Like, of course I'm crying. I'm, like, upset. Like, this is my, like, the person that I've fallen in love with, and they're like, oh, we have to break up. I was like, okay. She leaves my apartment, and I'm like sobbing, and like the last thing she said to me is like, she's like, I'm just not in a place to date anyone. And I was like, okay, it's not. And she's like, it's not you, it's just me, blah blah blah. Anyway, so she leaves, and I'm like crumpled up on the floor, like Taylor said, you know, a crumpled piece of paper. I'm like so sobbing. It's my first breakup, y'all. I was a mess. Anyway, I called one of my best friends, and I was like sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, and she's like talking me through it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to save, like, screenshot our first Tinder text because we met on Tinder, so I need to re-download Tinder and like save our first messages because I have to remember that. So then I re-download Tinder, and I like go to my matches, and we're still matching, and I like start to like scroll up through my very first text message with this girl, and then I see that Vicky's done something that's like blows my mind away. She's updated Tinder, her profile, with the pictures I took of her on Saturday. And I'm like sitting there like crying, and I'm like, she just told me, like, how could she have done that? Because like she was just at my apartment, and then she just left and drove back home. This doesn't like make sense. Timing wise, it doesn't add up. And I'm like blubbering about this to my friend, and I'm like, this is so painful because she told me she's not able to date anyone, and I'm literally deleting my Tinder account as I speak to my friend, like deleting it. Like, I deleted the app, but I never deleted my account, but like I am not in the mood to date anyone, so I was like deleting my account, and this girl is updating her profile with my pictures I took of her. I was like, what is happening? Like, what? So my friend is like, go ahead and delete your account, like screenshot whatever you want, and just like move on. And I was like, okay. So I texted Vicky, like, no, I texted her before I saw her picture. I was just like, I love you. I wish we could be together. Like, I'm really sorry. And yeah. And then she replied, like, I hope you have a happy life, or some statement like that. I don't even remember. I don't even think I screenshotted that. Anyway, so moving on. 6 weeks go by. I'm like picking up my life back together. The election happens. That's great distraction. I re-download Tinder. I create my new profile, and I'm like trying to have like a good life. And I go out of town for Thanksgiving at a friend's house. Like, have a really good like time to just like spend, like taking a deep breath, or so I think. And then in early December, so we broke up October 21st, so like December 1st, I matched with this person on Tinder, and we're going to call them Susan. So Susan and I matched, and Susan immediately is like, oh, do you want to hang out? And I was like, sure. And she's like, oh, are you free for coffee on this date? And I actually wasn't free that day. I was like, actually, I'm like filming all day. So how about Sunday? So Sunday afternoon, we start to go to Starbucks, and Starbucks is right next to where my ex works. So I was really nervous about going into Starbucks because I knew my ex would sometimes go into Starbucks like while on a break from shifts and grab a drink and then go back to work. So I was like, I'm not sure if I want to go into Starbucks. Well, I pull up to Starbucks and they actually are closed to indoor dining. So I was like, whew. So I text Susan. I was like, hey, do you want to meet somewhere else? Because Starbucks doesn't have indoor dining. And Susan is like, how about Panera? So we like drive to Panera. We get into Panera and I meet this Susan person, and they're like nice looking and really tall, like a lot taller than me, and kind of like muscly, like a lot musclier. And they're cute. Like I will say they are cute. And we go, like I'm going on a date with them. Of course they're cute. Though I have gone on dates with ugly people, but that's besides the point. They were a cute person. Anyway, so we walk in. And I said, I'm so relieved we didn't go to Starbucks because, like, it just so happens that my ex works next door. And so I'm like, LOL, like, funny small town life. And they're like, oh, who's your ex? I was like, oh, they just work next door. And they were like, are you talking about Vicky? And I was like, Vicky? Like, what? And they were like, oh, I know them. I was like, how do you know them? And she's like, oh, it's a long story. I was like, oh, okay. So I go to my table with my coffee, and they come to table with their coffee. And I was like, no, for real, you have to tell me how you know Vicky. And they're like, oh, we've been hooking up. And I was like, I was straight up gobsmacked. And I was like sitting there like just like absorbing this. And it turns out they knew who I was. They were like, oh, you're Vicky's ex. I've heard all about you. And I was like, I don't know anything about Susan. Like, I don't know you from Adam. And you're telling me like you've been hooking up with Vicky. And I was like, oh my God. So I'm sitting there listening, and we talked for a bit. They said some things that were kind of concerning. Of course, Donald Trump had just lost, so I guess Donald came up in the conversation because what else do you talk about on a lesbian first date but politics? And she said something like, I don't like Donald, but I am a Republican. And I was like, what? I was like, interesting. And as the date goes on, it's just like getting a weird vibe. But I was like, this person is fun to talk to, even if I'm getting a strange vibe. Also, they're friends with Vicky. So like, I'm still like recovering from my breakup, and I'm not cutting off all contact because I'm like, oh, I need to know what's going on with Vicky's life. And Vicky had watched all of my Instagram stories for a month after my breakup and had stopped watching my Instagram stories a week before Thanksgiving. So I'd only gone 10 days without no contact because I knew they were watching my Instagram stories. So like I'm back in this position to like know what is going on in Vicky's life because I shouldn't have done that, but I was kind of interested. And Susan's like telling me tea on Vicky's life. And then they're like, oh, I met their parents. And I was like, you met their parents? And like, she's like, oh yeah, we hung out. Her dad is adorable. And like, I'm feeling like, what? Because we dated for 4 months. And of course they were only out to their parents for a month, but I never met them or anything. And I just thought that was weird. And then it's like getting late. So I like wrap up the day. I'm like, well, maybe we'll meet each other again. Like maybe we should do dinner or something. So then I go to my car and I'm like literally like, what just happened? And then I go home. And then the next day is Monday at work. And starting on Monday, and I ended up deleting all these texts because they bothered me so much. But starting on Monday, Susan just starts texting me like, so did Vicky not like it when you did like this thing together? Did Vicky ever tell you like call you sweetheart or tell you like I dreamed about you last night? Or did Vicky ask to like hook up or like different like questions about our sex life and just different things like that? And the truth is, Vicky and I did not have that kind of relationship. It was very tame, very tame. And I was just like, no, like, why are you asking me this? And Susan's like, well, we do. And Susan's like, well, Vicky likes me because I have bigger hands and I'm musclier. And she was bigger than me and more muscly. And just like telling me random things like, oh, Vicky likes it because I can spend $150 in a date and you don't have the money to do that. And I'm like, of course I don't. I don't make that much money a year. And Susan lived at home with her parents and her parents' money. So, like, that was a big difference. So, like, Susan just the whole week is just, like, kind of taunting me. It is ridiculous. And I was like, this is the worst. And then they tell me, like, okay, so I got frustrated. So, on the Wednesday of this, like, Wednesday morning, I wake up at 2 a.m. And at this point, I figured out that Susan was a Republican who voted for Trump. And Vicky had always said, because they went to Clemson, that they were like, oh, Clemson boys and like Trump voters are so annoying. So I like knew that Vicky had always said that she would never hook up with someone who voted for Trump. And she, like, Susan is like telling me all about like how much Vicky likes them and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I can't handle this anymore. So I texted Vicky at 2 a.m. and I was mad. And I was like, what is it that you didn't like me? Like, you said you didn't like hang out with me, but you're totally fine to date a Trump voter or some statement like that. I was pretty mad. I'm also keeping it PG rated here on YouTube because I don't want to lose my reputation. Anyway, so I texted her that. And didn't get a reply for like 12 hours. Went to work, never got a reply. Now, Susan was talking to me, and Susan's like, oh, I heard you got mad at Vicky, and, like, texting me all of this. I'm like, yes, I'm mad, blah, 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 like, this whole mess. And then Vicky finally replies to me, like, at 9 o'clock at night, and is like, that is not an accurate assessment of the situation. I was like, well, tell me, what is an accurate assessment of the situation? So we, like, go back and forth for a while. We're, like, arguing about it. But I, like, texted Vicky. I was like, they're describing y'all's sex life and blah, blah, blah. And, like, why is this happening? And Vicky was like, well, I'm sorry. I, like, don't like my sex life being a topic of conversation. But, like, that's just who Susan is. So you just gotta get over it kind of reply. And I was like, am I just insane? Like, is this something that I should, like, somebody should tell me? And I was like, I can't handle this. So, that was like the rest of the week. So I kind of stopped talking to Vicky. We talked back and forth on Thursday. I had written Vicky some letters. And I was like, since we're texting, can you send back the letters that I wrote to you? And they were like, sure, what's your address? Which was ridiculous because they came over to my house every day all summer long. Susan told me that Vicky was mad at me because when I was in Texas, her cat died and I didn't cancel my trip and fly back home. And I was kind of upset about that because Vicky never told me that she wanted me to fly back home and her cat died. And I was like, you didn't even talk to me after your cat died. So why are you blaming me that I didn't cancel my trip and fly back home when your cat died? And I didn't really get an answer to that. So that is the conclusion of that part of the conversation. But anyway, it is now Saturday. Evermore comes out Friday. I start listening to Happiness and other songs. I'm like crying. I'm listening to Champagne Problems. I am in a hot mess. I really haven't texted Susan all day. And then Susan texts me, did you say everything that you needed to Vicky? And I was like, isn't that between me and her? Because, like, it's not between what I say to Vicky. It's between me and Vicky, not you and Susan. And Susan says, well, she's my girlfriend, so... And then she does, like, the shrugging emoji. And another reply, just checking to make sure that y'all are straight. And I didn't know what to say, so I just said, well, I'll never be straight. Because I really didn't know what to say. And that was hopefully the end. Like, I was like, that's good. That is the end of my time with this person. I don't want to talk to them anymore. They're dating my ex. Let's move on. Oh, and before I say let's move on, I really did want to move on from this. And I had and I found out from Susan that Vicky and Susan were hooking up the week that Vicky broke up with me. So I don't know if they were actually hooked, but Vicky was definitely on Tinder before breaking up with me because she updated her Tinder bio with pictures I took. But I always was like, were they cheating on me? Like, I really don't know. That is pure conjecture on my part. A lot of my friends thought they were. But the main thing is they were definitely, Vicky had said she wasn't dating anyone, like wasn't able to date anyone, and then immediately was dating Susan. And then Susan knew who I was and still went on a date with me. So anyway, I was like done with this. I was like, this is drama. This is not something I want in my life. This is so super toxic. So I'm going to turn a new chapter in my life and say goodbye to them. And I really thought I was going to. So when I was at my friend's house for Thanksgiving, I had started to draft in my mind a goodbye 2020 video, because 2020 was super hard on everybody, including myself. And going through a relationship and a hard breakup, I wanted to say goodbye to me of 2020, like to the me that I was, and say hello to a new me who's like gone through these hard feelings and is ready to move on. So I made this goodbye 2020 YouTube video. And this video was so special to me. Like, it was just like a message to myself. And a lot of people watched it, and on Instagram and YouTube told me like that video was very healing. And I really appreciated like all my friends who were like, wow, Elizabeth, you encapsulated like a lot of what I was feeling, and like this video is art. Several people commented that on YouTube, and it just blew me away that my video could have like this goodbye for me was also like emotionally a goodbye for other people. And I was like, oh, I even have one of the messages, like, this video is the definition of art. Like, that video was very, very good for me. I was very satisfied with how that video turned out. And you're like, Elizabeth, what does this have to do with your lesbian L word drama breakup? Well, we're getting there. So the day after I posted that video, I got a Notes app apology in my inbox from a number that I deleted. So it was Susan. Susan messaged me this mega long message. I don't know if you can like even see it. A screenshot of this message. This is a dramatic reading. Hey, I just wanted to apologize for being a mega dick the other day and in general. Out of the three of us, I certainly had the least emotional exposure, so I wasn't as hurt by the things that were said or done. I know that it opened old wounds and created new ones for you and Vicky. Watching her hurt made me hurt. Shattering your perception of the situation was surreal. I really don't know how for either of us, Vicky was an entirely different perspective. I know that I overstepped by looking into your playlist and your YouTube channel. Oh, I didn't even tell you that. She went through my entire Spotify playlist, well, first off, she found my YouTube channel, screenshotted a video where I was listening to my Spotify playlist, found me on Spotify, and found my breakup playlist, and texted it to my ex and was like, look at these sad songs that she, like, is so sad and can't get over getting broken up with. Like, what a sappy piece of work. And then told me that she did that. She didn't have to tell me she did that, but she did tell me that she did that. Then she says, I recognize that those actions were attributed to insatiable curiosity, commitment to learning from past mistakes, and jealousy. Honestly, I hated and still do the fact that I knew of her in April, but missed my chance. Oh yeah, this is part of it. They were talking on Tinder from like March to April, and then my ex was like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, and then started talking to me in May. So Susan was mad at me for dating Vicky when she wanted Vicky to be dating her, and like was jealous. But of course, I didn't know that all summer long. How was I supposed to know? I had no idea, so that was not my problem. But I had to suffer this girl's jealousy when she realized anyway. I was so drawn in at that time for the most insignificant little reasons. But when she left, I knew she would be back. You know what? I've heard you articulate more than once the idea of fleeting summer love. I know exactly what you're talking about in ways deeper than popular lyrics and tropes suggest. On a human level, my heart is heavy with yours. On a personal level, my heart breaks with yours. My thing is, if this is how you act out of sympathy for someone, nobody wants that. Like, go away. You don't know how to grieve with other people. She's so easy to love. I hate admitting that I watched a 2020 wrap-up video, but you knew exactly how to capture her bright eyes, her contagious smile, her fluid hips. I feel so much. I can't imagine what I ended up unearthing. I'm so sorry for not meeting you with adequate compassion. Like, girl, this apology is all about you. I unearthed all these feelings. I am so sorry that you feel this way about me. Anyway, that apology was BS, I'm just saying. And then texting me randomly in the middle of my workday was not kind. I remember I was at work and I was like flabbergasted because that video was not for her. It was for me. And for me to close a chapter in my life, and this girl just happened to keep reopening that chapter. And y'all, you really think this is the end of the drama, right? You would think this is the end of the drama, but it is not. Okay, number one, I start dating Zoe in March. April, like 5 months after my breakup and disastrous drama. And Zoe and I were in Philadelphia in August. So I like fly up to Philly in August. I'm like exhausted. I've been up since 4 a.m. because I always get these freaking ridiculously early flights because I have this theory in my head that if I arrive in Philly by 8 a.m. then I'll have like a full day with Zoe and it'll be a better day because long distance, you got to do things like that. But then I'm just exhausted because I left for the airport at 3:30 and then the whole day I'm like dying tired. So it was one of those days, and we're sitting at dinner and Zoe gets this like random DM on Instagram, and Zoe normally doesn't check their DMs like regularly, but that day Zoe saw that the DM said, are you dating Elizabeth Hunter? And she was like, oh, it's somebody talking to me about Elizabeth, like my girlfriend, like I'll reply to them. And the DM said, are you dating Elizabeth Hunter? Like that's how it said it. Are you dating Elizabeth, Elizabeth Hunter? And Zoe shows it to me. I was like, I don't know who this is because it's like some random account. And Zoe is like, yeah, we're dating. And this person replied, I don't know how to tell you this, but I know from my like sources or some statement like that, that Liz is cheating on you. And I was like, what? Zoe and I were like, what? And Zoe like responds for a few minutes, like trying to source out who this is. And I compared it to the text I had from Susan, and it was definitely Susan. Because Susan never showed me who she was in social media. She always stalked me, but always said that she didn't have a social media account, even though she was stalking my Instagram and texting my ex things that I posted about our relationship. So I was like, girly, like, we know it's you. And so we, unfortunately, Zoe was like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, of course I don't believe them. And I was like, good Lord, like, will my girlfriend think I'm cheating on her? But also, like, what? Like, I go to work every day and I come home. Like, my roommate sees me, my dog sees me. Like, no one believes this. This is, like, the most ludicrous lie you could come up with. Also, I'm studying for, like, the LSAT and all this crazy stuff. Like, I definitely do not have time to cheat on the person that I love and care for. Anyway, so Zoe went to block them because it was such a stupid freaking thing, but they deleted their account. Like, after saying all this and Zoe saying, I don't believe you, they deleted their account. So we were like 99.9% certain that it was Susan. And another follow-up. I'm tired of these follow-ups. I finally, like, talked about my relationship and, like, what I learned as a person from my past relationship on Instagram a year after the breakup, because several people I know have been going through breakups and, like, hard times, and, like, what I learned about sacrificing my own feelings for the sake of someone else who really didn't care that what I was doing, and, like, what I learned about that in myself. I wanted to share what I learned from that, so I shared that, and my ex liked and unliked that picture. So someone is following me still, or like still knows when I'm posting things about my life that somehow touched theirs. So the drama is still ongoing. It will probably be more drama after I post this YouTube video because Susan is bound to watch it. So hello, Susan. It's nice to see you. Thank you for watching this. No thank you for the people who voted for me to do this on my Instagram stories. I would have much rather done another video that wasn't so dramatic, but I couldn't think of another video, and this is what people voted for, so you are welcome. If you voted for it, you better have watched it, otherwise you're a terrible person, but because you asked for it and then didn't watch it. Also, I liked my phone setup today. I should sit on the floor. I'm like actually on my dog, sitting on my dog's bed, so this was, my dog kept staring at me like, what are you doing, Mom? So sorry to my dog, but thank you to the fans, and I will see y'all around. Also, follow me on Instagram so you can vote on what videos I'll do next time. And if you like story times, let me know. I might do more. And I have lots of lesbian drama in my life. Thankfully, it's most of it's funnier and better than this because this was just a mess. And I will see y'all around for the next mess. See ya.